Hello, everybody. We are back. This is Jazz Chronicles podcast, and we are back for another episode. As we promised, I am going to give honors
Always.
to Sharon Davis. I'm going to let her open up for us. So, Sharon, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. How y'all doing?
I'm doing well.
Doing okay.
Super, super.
Y'all doing great. That's good. Y'all, this afternoon,
Doing
we
well.
have a very special guest that's here with us. Um, I'm sure, hopefully, that Mr. Zeke will be on with us. And but I'm excited about this opportunity to have Miss Gatson on our show. Letitia Gatson is a native of El Dorado, Arkansas, who graduated in the class of 1989. She's a mother of six, five beautiful daughters, and a beloved son. Ms. Gasson has been blessed with seven grandchildren, and this is not just only the beginning of her story. Life has not always been gentle with her. As a mother, she faced challenges that would have broken many of us. But Letitia Gatson, y'all know, is not just many. She's a light, a woman with a story that demands to be heard, a story of survival, faith, and unshakable strength. One of the greatest battles she confronted was her struggle with fentanyl, a drug that has devastated family and communities across the nation. I'm excited for us to be with her tonight and for her to be able to tell us in her own story, her battle, her ups, her downs, her blessings. She told us that we could talk about anything, that she's just an open book. And you guys, she fought, she prayed, and she did survive. So let's welcome Letitia Gaston to Jazz Chronicles podcast.
Hello,
Hello,
everybody. How
everybody.
y'all doing?
All right. Welcome, welcome,
Well,
welcome, 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 welcome.
great to
Um,
have you, Miss Gasson. Great
yeah,
to
and I'm
have you.
glad to be here. It's always take advantage of the opportunity to share my experience, strength, and hope with others. Because
Right,
if it can save just one person, my job is done.
right. Now, Sharon did send
Right,
me
right, right, right.
something, and I'm going to play that right quick.
Okay.
So, you guys just hold
Thank you,
on.
Anthony.
You're welcome.
Lost in a world that wouldn't let go. Trapped in the grip of a vice, don't you know? The bottle, the pills, they call my name. I thought they were answers, but they were just chains. Days turn to nights and the nights never end. I pushed away, I just needed the courage to step into the light. One step away from the edge I turned. Felt the fire in my soul as I burned. I found a way to break the ties and finally look the devil in the eyes. I'm breaking free from the chains that bound me, leaving behind all the lies.
Wow.
And we are back. Now we can officially start.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, right. Wow. So when
You
you,
know.
like it took my breath away.
Yeah. You know. Um. I really contemplated on making that video because I've always worried about, like, what my outsides look like. But God told me that it's time to share the real stuff. You know what it's really like out there. Because it's not no fun when the rabbit got the gun. And
Right.
and that during that time in my life, I think that was at my very, very lowest. But at my lowest, which I always knew God, I always kind of had a relationship with God. I didn't find God in the church. I found God out in them streets because
Mm,
all those nights I walked the street 3, 4, 5 in the morning, He was with me because I didn't fear nothing out there. You know, uh, Most people would have been afraid. but it's like he was always walking with me wherever I went. He had a hedge of protection around me, and he always would tell me, and I kept my faith that I was going to come out. you know um it even started when I was like 17. I started doing crack. Well, it really go back before that. I can go all the way back to when I was 12 and 13, stealing weed from my mama. Um, my drug addiction started way back then, but it took a turn for the worse when I got introduced to crack cocaine. And that took me down through there. You know, that was bad. And I didn't think it could get any worse until I got on fentanyl. And fentanyl was a whole new level. And and I hear parents share stories about how they children accidentally got poison or bought the wrong pill and it killed them. But it wasn't that for me. I wanted fentanyl. People died all around me, and I'm like, I want some of that. you know
Mm,
it doesn't kill them, but I want some
right.
because I felt like it was that good stuff. you know um and when I first done it, I knew, because see, I was a pill head. I started out like on hydros and Percocets and morphine and heroin. I did it all, but that stuff stopped working. And then the withdrawals be so bad, like when you can't get it. So I was introduced to fentanyl. And I
Mm,
loved it. I liked the effect produced by it. I liked the way it made me feel. I just didn't like the consequences that came behind it.
right.
It took way more than money from me. It took my my morals, my values, my self-worth, my self-esteem. I'm slumped all over, just not caring what I look like, going in McDonald's or the gas stations, washing myself off or with paper towels. It was my way of living that had got so bad. And it's like, even there was a time I was getting high with this guy, and I burned it for him, and when I turned around to smoke it, he was dead. He was just like laid back in his chair and had turned blue. And in my mind, a normal person would have, like, called 911, but not me. I'm robbing him. I'm finna take his money and I'm finna go. I'm finna lock him up in there. It's snowing outside. Snow is probably 5 feet of snow out there, and here it is, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm walking the streets because I gotta get some more of this stuff. But it's really a sad situation, but I thank God for it, and I wouldn't trade it for nothing in the world. You know, it helped shape me to who I am today. Being on those drugs. And like, I've been shot. It all goes back. Everything, like, drug is just a symptom of the problem. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't my problem. It was some things that I had to recover from, like as a child, being molested. I was molested by the babysitter. I was molested by my stepbrother. All those things. I was going through identity crisis. I didn't know really who my father was, so I didn't know. So I didn't really feel like I belonged. I'm my mama's only child, and there was an upside to that, but it was also a downside, and I think that's why I had so many kids, because I didn't want my children to ever feel alone like I did. And growing up, I thought I had a good life until I got old enough to realize that my train jumped the track. The train jumped the track at a very, very young age, and it caused me to make some decisions that later on put me in a position to be hurt. So and so I used the drugs to medicate. the hurt and pain that I was feeling. Drugs wasn't my problem. I had a me problem.
Mhm.
I'm the problem. When I look in the mirror, it was like, okay, teacher, you are the problem. You can blame everybody else for what you're going through. If they would act right, or if he would act right, or if she would act right, I wouldn't be doing this. If I had enough money, I wouldn't be doing this. But that's not true. I made that decision to do those drugs. I prostituted. I did whatever I could. You can let your mind wander. I did that too. I did it all, for the drugs. But I was married. I was married to a pastor. We was together 22, married 21. And those were some of the best years of my life. But they were also, he was an enabler. He helped me to look the part. He would always cover me and pick me up when I'm down. He would run the bath water, make sure I ate, make sure I dressed, make sure I looked good. But I was a dressed up garbage can, looking good on the outside, and in the inside, my insides were just all out of whack. I even realized that I had some mental problems. When I get on them drugs, I'm very abnormal. So, he helped me to keep getting high. He didn't and he was an addict too, but he was a recovering addict with many, many years. And he would preach the Bible. He would preach the big book. He would pour oil on me. I would go down a dry devil, come up a wet devil. He did everything, and I would go to church. He gotta pay me to go to church. You know what I'm saying? I'm in church high. I took money from the church. I'm talking about, it was like I was like a tornado in people's lives. I would touch down, I would tear up, and then I would take off, and I'm gone. If you ain't got no money for me, I'm gone. And that wasn't no way to be in a marriage, but I knew that he loved me. But it wasn't until that day in 2023 when he told me, he said, Tisha, it's a wrap. I can't do this no more. And I never thought that this man would leave me. Now I done got high off and on all these years. I've been getting high. I would do crack a while. I would pop pills a while. But once I took that fentanyl, I didn't ever want no more crack. I haven't smoked crack since 2019 by the grace of God, and I thank God for that. You know, but it was when he told me that he couldn't do it no more. When he shut the door, he did for me what I couldn't do for myself. And I cried and I cried and I cried, and I felt like my whole world was shattered because I didn't have nowhere to go. He kept me with somewhere to live. He kept me with a car to drive. He always held me up. But when he took them crutches away and I didn't have nobody, I was all the way full blown into them streets. Now the devil having his way. I'm in a vicious cycle now. I'm doing everything. And when you in the vicious cycle, it's jails, institution, and death. You're either going to get locked up, or you're going to get covered up, or you're going to sober up. One to three, you don't have no other options. You can't win. So, and when he shut the door, I didn't have nowhere to go. I'm living in a broke down car until my car just quit all the way and I didn't have it no more. I started sleeping under a bridge. And I'm thinking, okay, well, he'll take me back in a minute. But then 6 months passed, he didn't take me. A year passed. Next thing I know, I got divorce papers. I'm like, oh my God. So I couldn't even show up for court because I couldn't face this man. And I know he deserved better. He's a real man of God and he's doing God work. And he got a knife, not a wife, but a knife. Somebody 37 minutes back, taken from him. You know what I'm saying? I was an embarrassment.
Wow.
He had to be in the church world, and his wife was never with him. So I left that door open. I left that window cracked for the enemy to come on in. I would have been to left me. If I was me, I wouldn't have put up with the things that he put up with. And I thank God for him. And I thank God that he left me. And I always knew that he would be my bottom. That once he took his hands off and stopped trying to play God, that God was gonna do what he was gonna do. Because see, even in the midst of my addiction, God always told me, he said, you in the fire right now. I got you where I want you. You know what I'm saying? You in the fire, you're gonna come out though, and you're not gonna have a burnt mark nowhere. You're not gonna even smell like smoke. But God had to do the work. I had to get so low that I couldn't do nothing but look up. And once I got to that point where I didn't even recognize myself, when I look in the mirror, I saw bones, I saw a skeleton, I saw demons, real demons looking back at me. And I'm like, oh no, God, if there's anything that you can do with my life, you can have it. I remember crying out to God under that bridge. It was cold. I didn't have no cover. I didn't have no jacket. I didn't even have on no shoes. And I was like, God, please deliver me. And I said, when are you going to do it? You told me you was going to do it. I'm calling you and I'm holding you to your word. God, you promised me that you was going to bring me out. That this was not going to be my story. So and he was like, okay, but what are you gonna do? You want me to do all the work. You want it right now. You're in an instant microwave society. You want me to just do this. He said I could do it, but I'm not. Because you gotta do some work. You gotta get up off your butt and you gotta put in some work. It's not gonna be handed to you. I had to fight for my recovery. I went through 9 days of per D HELL to get to where I am today. I'm talking about using the bathroom in one end and coming out this end. Night sweats, restless leg syndrome. I'm talking about I looked at like a monster. I didn't wash my hair, wasn't taking a bath. It was just god awful. But I called my daughter, my kids, they was done with me. I made so many terrible, terrible decisions. Like
I was
even
just gonna ask you. I was just gonna ask you about the children. I was gonna ask
yes,
you. You talked about your husband, but what happened to your
yes,
children? Did they
yes,
struggle
like
with you through that?
yes, my children definitely struggled through it. I even lost them in DHS custody. I lost three of them. But going back, like my third child and my fourth child, I gave them both up for adoption. My son's father, he the one shot me. But I had just moved to Little Rock and was getting myself together. So I felt like I couldn't take care of three children. So I gave him up. And my daughter, I gave her up at birth. So I didn't know who had her. I didn't know where she was or anything. But I thank God I've been reunited back with all my children. All my children are in my life, and I thank God for that. But yes, they did. They struggled. They didn't want nothing to do with me. They was ashamed of me. Now I had only one of my children. She would call me. She would pray. She said, "Mom, I'm not giving up on you." She even wrote a book. She wrote a book, and I was very upset about that book, but she told some truth. But it was her truth. You know, it was through her eyes. I can't say how that what she felt was wrong because she talking about me in her book. That was her right. So, you know, but yes, they definitely struggled. No food. Well, it was bad. But they grew up to be very successful. Like my oldest, she just graduated last Saturday. She got like two masters. She's got all kind of degrees. I'm very, very proud of my children. I got one that's a police officer. One, she's a clinical research assistant director, and one that's a guidance counselor, and one she live in Shreveport. She worked down there at Willie Knight Hospital. She's got some big position, but I'm very, very proud of all my children. Um, and my children, I messed up with them, but I thank God for my grandchildren because I get a chance to do it right. And they my world. I give them anything they want. I mean,
Yes.
they finally getting, they call me T Mama. So they getting the good parts of me that
Mm.
my children didn't get, you know. Um and and I'm just so excited because it even my oldest daughter kind of like checked me. She was like, "Mama, these twins are 6 years old. You've been getting high their whole life. Where are you gonna stop? And until you stop, you can't be around them." They didn't. My grandkids, they didn't even want to be around me at that time. So those words hurt me. You know, I had to do some soul searching and hey, because one thing about it, I know God ain't gonna put no more in you than you can bear, and everything that happened to me is supposed to happen. I
Right.
don't believe in mistakes or coincidences. You know, I think God designed it all to happen that way because He wants some glory out of my life. You know, He allowed me to go through the trenches. You know, I just wasn't that average person. If I would be in the crack houses like preaching about God. I mean, everywhere I go, I don't care what I was doing. I kept his name, you know, on my tongue. I would always praise him. It wasn't what it looked like. I just would always speak life,
Right.
you know, over me. I don't care how bad it was. You know, I spoke life over myself, you know. I've been so close to death so many times, you know, from when I got shot and when I got beat like that. Those on that video, you know, how my eye was all like I got beat up by four guys, you know, and
Mm.
you know, cause I had it bad jumping in cars
Right.
with people I don't know because I'm thinking they're gonna give me some money, you know, but you know, they did me bad and didn't give me nothing, you know. Um and you know talked about me in the process and just abusing me and you know and in my mind I'm like, you don't even know who I am. You know, you don't do not God gonna get you about me because I'm chosen. I'm still God's child and God don't play about me, you know, and they looking at me like I'm crazy, you know. And then the one dude was like, "Well, here, you know, like gonna throw $5 at me," and made me just feel like the scum of the earth, you know. But hey, I put myself in that position, and that's why I say my decisions, you know, choices that I've made, I did that. So whatever happened to me, it happened, you know. I can't change it, nor do I even want to change it because it's got me, you know, like my purpose that I really believe that everything I went through was not for me. It's to help the next person. I can't say it enough because so many of our people are hurting and, you know, it's still going through this epidemic, you know, with this fentanyl, with, you know, crack ain't even really no big deal no more. You know, it's all about the opiates. And I'm
Right.
telling you, it's destroying our young people.
Hmm.
And I always ask God, how you save a 55-year-old when you got babies overdosing, you know, people that haven't even had a chance to live, you know. But God said it's something that I want to do through you. You know, your experience is the best teacher, and I couldn't get this kind of experience, no, this teaching from just information. You know, I couldn't learn because my mama told me don't do drugs, or my ex husband said, you know, say no to drugs. I couldn't get it that way. I had to go out there and find out the hard way, and life has not been always good to me.
Miss,
But in the
Miss,
end, it was all worth it. It
So
was all worth it.
when was the first time that you actually just, tried it and then you went from there going like,
Okay, I first tried fentanyl. I had I had went to Florida. I went to Florida to treatment during COVID, and that's when I was smoking crack. And I went to Florida, and I came back. Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready to be like, clean and sober. I'm gonna do this. But them people, places, and things, going back to familiar territory, want people to see I'm looking good. I done got myself together and all that stuff. But see, you relapse in your mind before you ever pick up. Somewhere was a lurking notion in the back of my mind. Why am I going? If you go to the barber shop, you're gonna get a haircut. So why am I keep going around these old people, places, and things if I'm not trying to do what they doing? Birds of a feather flock together. But I found myself going around these people wanting to show off. My hair done grew back, my skin coming back, and that was a setup. And she was like, and a friend of mine, she was like, okay, you need to try this, this will make you feel real good, and it lasts longer than the because I was doing Roxy's, which is like a form of oxycodone, but the Roxy's 30 milligrams, and I was snorting them. I snorted pills. I didn't take them in the mouth. I swallowed them, and but I ended up smoking uh fentanyl. I started out snorting it in my nose, but I ended up smoking it on four. But yeah, it was in 2000 and what was that? 2021 was when I first did fentanyl.
Now, Miss Gaston, so one of the viewers asked, what was your biggest fear during that time?
Whew. One of my biggest fears during that time, hmm, my biggest fear, well, I'm gonna say that my biggest fear was that will I ever, you know what? That's a good question, and I haven't really thought about it because I didn't fear dying
Mm,
because I wanted to die, but I was too much of a coward to kill myself.
mm.
Because so I wasn't. In the end, I already knew I wasn't gonna die because I had a very, very high tolerance, and I already knew what my spirit had told me. I was in agreement with that I was going to live and I was going to come out. But one of my worst fears was that I would never get myself in a position where I would be able to go through the withdrawals. The withdrawals is what I feared. I feared that I don't know if anybody know about withdrawals from opiates, but that's something that will make you feel like you about to die for real. I mean, that is one of the most excruciating pains ever. It's mental and physical. It affects your mind and your body, you know. And so that was what I feared the most was going through that part to get off. And because even though I lived under a bridge and I walked the streets at night, I was crazy. I mean, I would talk mess to people. I would tote knives and I would embrace trouble. I was one of those kind. I went hard for Satan. And that's why I go hard for God because I gave Satan my best. I want to give God my best. But I was just like, you know, I just feared what it was gonna take to get off.
Off of
That
Letitia,
was what was hard. That was
it.
what stuck in my mind, the part to get off of it, you know.
quick question, Letitia. We appreciate you being here with us tonight. Would you say in a sense that you all the pain? I'm listening to you about your past and everything. Do you feel that you're just really taking all the pain out on yourself from everything that happened to you in the past?
Oh
Was
yeah.
that what you were kind of going through? And it seemed
Yeah.
like you were just taking yourself down through there.
Yeah, I was. I like I said, I had a lot of low self-esteem, and I felt like life had gave me some bad blows, and like I didn't belong, like I wasn't worthy, and didn't deserve good things. Whenever something good would happen, I would sabotage it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I was afraid of success. So yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah.
I do see that your son is on. And he says, never, never make yourself small. God and you are part of the reason for your recovery. You and God are the reason you're still pushing through and standing strong today.
My
Come
son
on, man.
said that.
Yes, ma'am.
Mel
Oh,
B.
I love you,
Gatson.
William.
Mel B. Gatson. He said, "Give yourself some credit."
There you
Okay,
go.
that's my daughter, Mel.
Mal. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, Mal. So give
Thank you,
yourself some
Mel.
credit.
Yeah, that's the one that prayed for me all the time.
Okay.
She was like, she was like my angel, that,
Thank you,
you know,
Mal.
yeah.
For sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
her
Thank you,
daughter.
So
Mel.
Thank
on
you,
the
Mal.
Yes.
so when you once again, thank you so much. This is Deb, but thanks so much for joining us on tonight. So on the day, at some point in time, um when you finally realize that, hey, I'm finna make a change, or I'm finna come out of this, or I'm finna just really did you have someone that you could kind of reach out to that kind of
Yes.
welcomed you back? I feel like a lot of times we all need a helping hand in something, and so who was that, if you don't mind, or if
My
that's an
oldest
individual you
daughter.
can speak about, or uh,
My
okay,
oldest
she was
daughter,
the one that
Brittany.
when
Yes. And she was the one told me she was done with me until I was ready. And that morning I woke up,
right,
first of all, I owed the dope man. I had been lying to him, telling him I was getting an income tax, and I had got up to like $1,200 and didn't have a quarter coming. So I knew I had to get off them streets. But that night I pondered,
hmm,
and I woke up that morning and I called her. I said, I'm ready. She was there in 15 minutes, like literally 15 minutes, and got me. I'm talking about came right on that bridge and got me. And she took me to a behavioral health group in North Little Rock, and they got me in a treatment, but
okay,
I had to detox first. Yeah. So, and she let me stay at her house for those 9 days of detox. And she went through it, the withdrawals, the throwing up. She made sure I ate, took my medicine, and she just told the kids, the grandbabies, don't bother T Mama. T Mama's sick right now. And when the withdrawal, when I started to feel better, that's when the rehab. She took me right on the rehab. Yeah.
okay.
And once
So
I decided, and
you
once
you
I got
spoke.
clean, go ahead.
No, I was just going. You had spoken and testified earlier that the drugs and all of the things that you was doing was a mask for some of the deeper problems and things that you have. And so I've been doing a lot of, I would say, kind of talking with people, maybe counseling, and because I think that especially our race is suffering from mental illness, and so I'm trying be a kind of avenue, or let people know, especially in our race, that there is help, and we go through stuff, and sometimes our relatives, or even in the past, or old generation wouldn't let us face none of it, or they told us we had to toughen up, or you got to be strong, you got to get through that. So how did you deal with the things that was in the past that may have led you to the drugs, to being molested, just being mistreated as a child? So how did you finally deal with that? Are you still seeking, maybe some
Well,
counseling or things? Or if you don't mind, tell us how you dealt with that, or how you're dealing with that, to make sure that you don't
well,
have any relapse.
well, when you
Because
go in,
you had
when you
stated that, and
when
until you get to the root of that problem, you need to get to the
yes,
root of that. So would
yes,
you tell us how you're dealing and getting to that?
get into the root. Okay. Well, for a minute, I did take medication. And I did seek a little therapy, but of course that didn't last. But in recovery, we do a fourth step. That's where you take a moral inventory. You write your whole life history down, and then you point out areas that it affected. You know, we got three basic
Mhm.
instincts. So I focused on like whoever I got a resentment. Resentment is the number one offender. An addict can't afford to have a resentment. That'll keep us, like bound, where you'll go back and repeat a repeat offender. But yeah, I would write this all down and I would talk to somebody, you know, um, about it. I even confronted this person. This been years ago. I think like that stuff when I got molested, I got had some new stuff going on because the lady that molested me, she's deceased now, but I did get a chance to confront her about that, and told her that she was wrong. Then I felt like she robbed me of my innocence. It really did mess with me. It made me feel really, really, really nasty. And I learned that when you've been molested, you either gonna have a high sex drive and love to do it, or you're gonna hate it. And for me, it ain't that I love to do it, but it's like it was something. It was familiar. It's like I felt like I had to use my body to get what I want because my body was taken from me at such a young age. And even the old drunks at my grandmother's house down in Strong, Arkansas, would touch on me and then they would give me money. So my little 9, 10-year-old mind felt like that was normal. That's what's supposed to happen, you know. So but yeah, I prayed about it and I talked about it and you know, I did all kind of therapy and I really believe that I'm healed from that part of my life, you know.
We're getting a lot of people that's rooting for you. I actually can see one of them that says, "You is this?" And y'all, before y'all get upset with me, I'm just gonna say, T. Jones, you're doing amazing, sweetheart, a sweetie. And Anthony, you got some more up there. Brittany Taylor says, "I am so proud of you, Mama."
Thank you, baby.
Miss Osola says you're making her emotional. And Jasmine Bazell, she'd be such a great fit for this role. Oh, that's because one Lorianne, she had said something I seen pass through. She said, "Sis, have you considered becoming a peer recovery specialist?" And so Jasmine was piggyback saying that would fit for you. And that's a nice question that you can ask for Miss Huggins.
I actually have thought about that. It's a lot I want to do, but right now I'm just getting back like I just got my own apartment like a couple of months ago. And here I am 55 years old and normal folks been paying bills. So it's like I feel like a big girl now. This is like a big deal for me to have my
Right.
own place
And
and
it
paying my
is.
own
It
bills,
is. It is. Yeah, it
you
is.
know?
It
So
is
right now that's where I'm
it
at.
is a huge thing.
Yeah. So
It
and I've been
is.
on my
That
job.
is a big step. I,
Yeah, I've been on
yeah.
my job 2 years and it's like, I can really see God doing. I'm talking about I am totally abstinence from all drugs. There's never been a time where I didn't do anything, because I would either be doing weed, popping pills, fentanyl, or crack. I would always be doing some type of substance. And to be totally free from it is just amazing. I just can't thank God enough, y'all. I'm sorry. I love God. I just thank Him and I thank Him for delivering me. And anybody
Yeah.
going through it, if there's anybody on here listening that's going through it, there is a way out.
Mm.
I promise you. And
Mhm.
I got it through the 12 steps, but it don't always work like that for everybody. Everybody don't get it through the 12 steps, but the 12 steps worked for me. Really did. But yeah, so whew.
Well, once again, thank you so much for your story, and I kind of read up on it, and then listened to your testimony on tonight, and so we do know that, as you've already stated, that The power of God is always there for those individuals, and we know that He can deliver you from that. But it has to be a choice, and so you made the choice and made that telephone call to your daughter and said those words that I'm ready. And so we truly applaud you for that.
Thank you.
And we see the power that's in your life and that's over your life. And we know that you're doing great things, and you're going to
Thank you.
be and you are, I'm sorry, you're not going to be, but you are a great testimony for those that are listening, that of what can be done with just the mere fact of somebody wanting um, to make a change. And so, and I'm looking at your background and just your glow you look amazing. And especially for what you've been through and what you've
Yes.
overcome, you're gonna be an amazing witness to the people. And so we thank God for your spirit. We thank God first of all for your deliverance, and then thank God
Yes.
for your testimony, because your testimonies is what's going to help people to know that there's somebody that was just down like that I was, that was under the bridge, that was having to sleep and take bath in restaurant bathrooms and get thrown from place to place and jumped on and beat up and shot, but they made it through. So that's just a
Yes.
lovely testimony, and all praises to God. But we just thank you for that mindset that I want to come out of this. And so, and that's all it takes is a mindset, and then turn it over to God. And then we thank God for your daughter that that made it there in 15 minutes. They said, I'm going to get my mama. My mama
She
called, and
did.
I'm going to get her. So we thank God for your daughter,
She
because
did that.
I know so many people that um, would have. No, she didn't already burnt me before, or she's not
Oh
for
yeah.
real this time. She's not serious. I ain't going. I'm not going to help her. She need to help her own self. I ain't going. So that had to be the power of God that was working in her life as well. And so that was confirmation for her. So I just believe that God had already been working with her. And when that
Yes.
phone call came, it was confirmation for her that my mom is finally ready, and I'll be there in a
Yes.
few minutes. So that's a
Yes.
wonderful story, a wonderful testimony, and we're going to continue to be praying for you, that you can grow stronger and stronger and stronger. And one of the things that happened, um, while you were able to see people in the same room that you're in dying from the same drug that you were doing. Um, because you got a work to do. You got something that God wants you to do, and your testimony and your witness is finna be great in the land. You finna be great in the land, and you finna do
Mhm.
some things and say some things, and you finna go on some journeys, and you finna go and try to do some
Absolutely.
traveling. That's gonna really really help some people.
Absolutely.
And so we just thankful for you, and we're gonna be praying that you stay strong and continue to do what God will.
Yes. Thank you. I receive it. I receive it.
Now, what kind of, you said you've been at your job for
Mm.
2 years. What kind of work are you
Yes.
doing right now?
I do private home health care. Yeah, God bless me
Okay.
with
Excellent.
a great job. I really like it.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I,
Excellent. Excellent. Excellent.
um and one of the, and I just kind of want to share about real quick what has been my biggest obstacle in recovery, because it's been 2 years since I
Mm-hmm.
used, thank God, but I lost my mom, but she did get a chance to see me
Mm-hmm.
sober, and that's a blessing. But
Okay.
and when she passed last year, it it took the wind out of me because I've always had my mom, and I
Mm-hmm.
probably helped take her out because of the life I was living. But I know she was proud of me, and that's what kept me strong. Because I think a lot of people was looking at me and thinking that I was gonna go back. Because you don't never know what could take you back, especially if you don't have a solid foundation. if you're not rooted, you know.
Right, right,
And
right, 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 right.
but I managed to make it through it, and I missed her so much. But yeah, that was like one of my greatest challenges in recovery. So it's like, you know, it's like God cleaned me up, but I had to lose something
Mm-hmm.
in order to get it. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, but
Yeah, but now listen.
Oh yeah.
But let me say this, because you've already witnessed to your own self now. So let me bring this back to you on what you said now and how you have helped us on tonight. So the losing of the loss of your mother was trying, but Miss Gaston, you told us, and I'm gonna say this because you said it. You told us that he wouldn't on you than what you
then I
can
can
bear.
burn.
And
That's
so
right.
at the time of your mother's passing, the Lord already knew that you had a moment in your life that he can call his daughter home, and you could bear that. He didn't
Yes. And my
he knew the
mother knew
day and
that.
the time. He knew the day and the time that he can call and get his daughter and bring his daughter home. And he wasn't gonna do it an hour before you could handle it. He wasn't
That's
gonna do
right.
it a day before you can handle it. He did it at the
Yes.
time that he could call his daughter home and know that
Thank
his
you.
other daughter, his child, can handle that. So it was
Thank you.
hard. Losing mom is hard. I have not had to experience that yet, but I've been around some friends, and so I have not had to experience that. But we know and we trust God, and you believe in God. I can see it on you that you know that God did not take your mother a moment too soon. He took
That's right.
her at a moment that he knew that you could
That I
handle
can
it.
have it. Amen.
And that's why that didn't take you back. That wasn't gonna take you back.
Thank you.
That's why that
Thank
didn't take
you.
you back.
Thank
That
you.
that wasn't gonna take you back because God already knew that
Mm.
he could, now I can
I'm
go
about
and
to
get my
get happy.
daughter. That wasn't gonna take you back. Yeah.
Yes. Amen.
I'm holding everything in me not to because this is just a much needed story, a much needed moment. Um we're dealing with mental illness this month, and so it just all fit in because um you've let us know that you've decided not to even take pills or anything in order to make yourself better, that you decided to just trust in God. And some of us is just graduated from just being able to say God's name. There's a
Right.
lot of people
Amen.
out here that does not.
Right. Mm.
Good. I think her signal is gonna. But yeah, I agree to what she's saying. There's some people out here that they're like she just said is just now graduating to where they can say the name Jesus. They can say the name of God. And so
Right.
that being said, and your testimony is going to help some people because I also was listening to you, and even in the midst of getting high, in the midst of your drugs, in the midst of all that you were doing, you still had the wherewithal to say God's name. You still had to
All the
say the
time.
wherewithal. So that was your upbringing and a part of you that I'm not where I need to be, but I
That's
do know
right.
that there is a power. There is
Mm.
one that can
Mm.
bring me out of this. And so and the Bible said that every knee and every tongue is going to have to confess that name.
Confess
Some
that
people
he
are
is
not ready
Lord.
to confess that name. Some
They're
people
gonna
are
have
not
to.
ready to say that name. But the Bible said that every person is going to have to say that name Jesus. And so we're just thankful that in the midst of all that you were going through, in the midst of
Mm.
the drugs, in the midst of the
Mm.
alcohol, in the midst of the prostitution, in the midst of the fighting, the stealing, the hurting of people, that you still had to wherewithal to say the name Jesus. And so we thank
Yes.
you for that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I don't know no other name. He the only one was there with me.
No
I
other
had
name.
burnt up. I messed up
Yeah.
with everybody else. Mm.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
you had burnt up all your currency with everybody else. Huh? Yeah, you had been
Yep.
burning it all up. And so,
Yep.
yeah.
So what would you say to the ones that are still battling, and even the ones that are, some people don't want to believe that they're hooked on something, whether it's, the pills or, whatever it is, the ideal of just saying that, oh, that ain't me, that ain't me. But it is somewhat, because like you said, a lot of a fear of it is because of the withdrawal time,
Right,
knowing that
right,
they got to let it go.
right. Well,
How
the
can
first
you,
thing,
what words would you encourage,
yeah, the first
of
thing
those that,
I would say is, you gotta admit. First, you gotta admit that there's a problem, and when you admit it's a problem, accept that there's a problem, and then turn your will and your life over to the care of God. And even if you don't believe in God, believe in something greater than yourself.
Mm.
Because see, we are beyond human aid. Humans can't help us. We are a job for God. But my thing is, just keep the faith. Believe in yourself. Speak life over your situation. Even if you are, God still loves you, and there is a way out. You just gotta want it. And it'll work if you work it. You just gotta put in the work.
Right.
And it's not gonna be easy, but it's worth it. You are so worth it if
Miss
you have
Miss
to
Miss
struggle.
mhm. Miss Gaston, would you speak to this for our audience as well? Um, you stated, I believe, at one time when you thought that you had been, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you had went to Florida and you thought you were clean, and you come back and you was speaking on how you wanted to go back into the drug houses and on the street corners and stuff, just to try to prove to people that I'm back, I'm clean and stuff like that. I believe. Well, I don't believe. I've been in some situations where I was trying to help people, and if you don't remove yourself from
Right.
the the streets, of if you know, the Bible said, "Let the strong bear the infirmity of the weak," and if you know that you're not
Yes.
strong enough,
Yes.
you can't fool yourself and go back on that corner like you
That's
said you
right.
once did. You can't
That's
fool
right.
yourself and think that, oh, I can go back in the, like I like that I'm gonna use that. You can't go to the barber shop knowing that your hair is nappy and need a cut, but you're
You're
gonna go
right.
in the barber shop and sit and not want
You're
a
right.
haircut. That's
Right.
not gonna happen. So would you
Right.
kind of
Right.
witness
Right.
to us, and for the listening audience, on how you need to remove yourself if you're serious about
Yes.
getting help? Then you got to
That
decide that I can't go back around that. Would you speak on
that's
that?
right. Definitely change your people, places, and things. Places you used to go and people used to see, you need to get away from them. Stay away from them because they're not your friends. You know, that's very, very important because you are what you hang around. You know what I'm saying? If I wanna, if I wanna be a millionaire, I need to hang around with the millionaires, or you
Go
are,
ahead.
you
Go
hang
ahead.
around
Go
what you
ahead.
are. You gotta be around like-minded people. So I don't stay away from them crack houses or them liquor stores or the fitting out whatever you do. You know what I'm saying? Do something different. Just do something different, and I promise you it'll work. Knock them people, place them old friends, because they doing the same old thing. And when I see them today, I chunk the dudes and keep going. I don't have to stop and talk to them. I can love them from a distance. May the Lord watch
Yeah.
between me and thee while we have someone from another. I love you, but
Right.
I
Right.
don't have to hang with you. So
Right. Right.
definitely stay away from them.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Well, you've been a blessing to me, and it's some things, it's some other things out there that people are struggling with that may not necessarily be drugs and alcohol, but
Right.
they're struggling with some other addictions and things. And so, through the testimony of Miss Gaston on tonight, we just want to say that you can make a change for the better. First of all, believe, like she said, she believed in herself, but then she knew that it was going to take God to get her out of that. And so, whatever that our listening audience may be struggling with on tonight, whatever you're going through, may not just necessarily drugs and crack cocaine and heroin and alcohol. It may be just other things that to know that there's some help out there. There's some help out there, and listen to the
Definitely.
testimony of Miss Gaston and know that you can make it and you can come out of it. Just she
Yes.
said one of the most important things she said that y'all got to remember: change this around.
That's right. Definitely.
It is. Well, Letitia, we want to thank you. It's getting near our time, but we want to thank you for coming on. But I do want to do something before
Absolutely.
Sharon takes us out of here. I just wanted to mention this, that we did a photo shoot this past weekend, and the person who did the photo shoot, I just wanted to recognize her tonight because she did an amazing job.
She did.
She did
That's
amazing.
my cousin.
She told me. She
That's
told
my
me.
family.
She's on tonight. Andrea,
Hey.
I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. She did an amazing job, and I just think that that should
Now
be
you ought to be
recognized.
getting it right by now. Now you ought to be getting it right by now. Now we don't keep
Well,
letting
you
you mess up her name now.
hadn't mentioned it yet, so
I already know where I can get in and where I can't.
That was some beautiful pictures.
they really were. Definitely want to thank her and anybody who needs photography.
It's a Special K experience. 870-310-2839.
Yes,
Mhm.
and I also want to do something else too. Hold on one second, because we have some birthdays this month that we do need to acknowledge. So hold on one second.
Happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday, Sharon.
Queen.
And Enrico, it's the Gemini season. Thank you. Oh, Miss
Thank
Janet's
you.
birthday is
Mhm.
okay.
It's actually
Okay.
today. Her birthday is actually today.
Okay. Happy
Okay.
birthday. Absolutely.
So thank you guys for
Thank
that. Happy
you.
birthday.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we also have, well, we don't have it, but I always announce about events that be going on. I really don't be showing up to a lot of events. That's like you just did your story. At some point, we will say that there is time that, where you said you used to hang out in big crowds. Now you don't like those crowds like that no more because it's a bigger and better thing. However, I'm always promoting somebody that's been on our show, and Teddy Diamonds will be actually here in Camden, Arkansas on May 23rd, which is this coming weekend. With him, is it Jeter Jones or somebody, or
Jeter Jones.
Yeah, they'll be here in Camden. So if you all haven't gotten out tickets or whatever, y'all plan on wanting to be out, then there is something going on in Camden as well. And Tisha, we appreciate you, and many endeavors to you.
Yes.
And I agree with the cast that, it's just a blessing that you decided to be on Jazz Chronicles, and we really appreciate you.
Thank y'all for having me.
You're welcome. Now just lay hands on Dale.
Yeah.
Is that Dale right there with the hat?
I think
Dale is the one with the red on.
With the hat.
Right? If Dale's not cutting up, then it's it. Well, see, this time we have to thank goodness because Zeke has not leaked out at all. Zeke has been on the show the entire time.
That's somebody.
You see Dale over there in the dark.
Yeah, Dale was waving.
That's Dale.
Okay, I can't see him.
So both of them are waving now.
Yeah.
Sharon, I turn the floor back over to you. Oh, you were gonna say something, Dale? You had something to say?
No, I thought Zeke had something to say. His mouth moving.
Wait a minute. Anthony, you see Zeke is saying something, but we can't hear him.
Well, that's always.
Yeah.
It wasn't important.
This afternoon has been a wonderful, wonderful evening with Miss Letitia Gatson. We've spoken about a woman that has survived more than you can imagine. Many lives, the cat lady. So we just give thanks, and until we meet you all again, join us next Tuesday. I think that it would be the last month of the once a month we always do. Get the Zeke out of here. So I think that's what we'll be doing on next month. And then if you all wants to just keep joining, make sure you subscribe and join on to Jazz Chronicles. Y'all take it easy, stay blessed. Miss Gasson, continue your journey and love you much.
Yes.
Love y'all. Y'all
Love
be
you
good.
too. Love you
All
too.
right.
Y'all have a good night.
Love you too.
All right.